make him send his old one back. The company just sent him a whole new one and was like, keep it. It's too heavy to ship again.
Wow.
And yeah, and then when he did that, in the meantime, he had fixed what was wrong with his, and so he sold that one.
There you go. That was all a live stream, by the way. So now the whole world knows about how you illicitly got a.
Next door neighbor is a valuable source for I don't know, trade and bartering.
That's true. I mean, that's the system we're going back to. It's pretty soon here. It feels like, so might as well get your practice in.
Yep, exactly. I have the new. I have a stockpile of the new currency, and that is jigsaw puzzles.
I don't have any. Actually, I lied. I think I have 2 puzzles, but I'm not patient enough to really work on jigsaw puzzles that much.
I've done 3 in our time in captivity, and I bought myself a 3D puzzle of the Hogwarts Express. That's going to be my next venture.
Oh my god! What do you do with them when they're done?
If they're really cool and I like them, I'll glue them together. If I don't, I just put them back in the box and pass them on.
Fair. If you're here, please say hello in the chat so we know how many people are here, so we can get at least not feel like we're just talking into the wind.
Yeah, and also give us your feedback. Do you also like jigsaw puzzles?
Hey,
and rowing
machines.
Gabby!
I mean, I like jigsaw puzzles. I just don't have the focus or wherewithal. Hi Heyman, hi Fia, hi not Ashif. I think you got. Oh, I need to change. I'm not playing Final Fantasy right now. I should probably change that.
Wait, is it Catherine that's the Pyromantica?
Yes, that is Catherine.
Ah, look at me learning people.
There you go. I feel bad. There are a lot of students. There are 2 students in particular who kind of watch all the stuff I'm playing, and I don't know who one of them is. If you know who Ice Devil is, let me know without telling them. I feel bad every time.
They're like secretly in this chat knowing.
Probably, or maybe it's a decathlete. And I can't believe you, Harmon. I think it might be a decathlete. Now I'm thinking about it.
Ice Devil.
Yeah, I get Ice Devil and Tie-Dye Turtle as my 2 kind of mainstays when I'm playing Final Fantasy.
I think Ice Devil is Dr. Felix Honecker.
You're probably right. That's an excellent point.
It's a perfect name for him.
I saw a picture in there's a academic decathlon subreddit. Let's see if I can find the right one.
Ooh, going down the Reddit rabbit hole is dangerous.
Oh, I'm an avid user. I'm an addict, let's say. Of somebody put a picture of hot ice. As you can see here, which actually Miss Johnson cannot because I haven't screen shared.
I cannot.
I haven't screen shared yet. There we go. Of this hot ice, which seems to possibly resemble what Ice 9 would look like, I think. Or at least, and also so does this person. Can you see that, Miss Johnson?
Yeah. It looks like a melting candle.
It does. I agree. It definitely does look like a melting candle. So anyway, yeah, I saw that on the subreddit. Yeah, Reddit takes the notion that social media is both good, very good, and very bad, and cranks that to 11.
Is that a Spinal Tap reference?
Yes, sure. Yeah, it's a Spinal Tap reference, absolutely. For the children, Spinal Tap. This is Spinal Tap is a mockumentary about a fake rock band, and it's very good. They had an amplifier that turned the volume up to 11 as opposed to 10. It's very good. I recommend it. But like, you see a lot of astroturfing on Reddit by governments and companies and political groups and stuff, right? You see a lot of that, but then you also see some like really constructive discussion and interesting things you didn't know about. So it's just this. It's really the take. You gotta take the good with the bad of the internet. That is all the internet is at this point.
I would say most of my interaction with Reddit is when BuzzFeed does funny articles about conversations and threads on Reddit, and then I look at those.
There you go. That's probably a safe distance. I like Reddit for the very niche subreddits that I go to. You know, like there's one for certain video games I play. There's one for like my favorite sports teams. Right. There's a Texans one that's very vocal right now about one Bill O'Brien. Uh, Shockingly.
I don't understand how that guy still has a job. I don't.
I don't either. I feel like he has convinced people above him that he has like the secret formula. You know, like he's got it figured out.
Of just how to be mediocre at your job and maintain a
A mediocre.
really well-paying job.
Yeah. Yep. I'm sure these children all really care about the Texans. This is a Texans group for sure. They're very football oriented. So I'm sure they're loving our conversation. But yeah, I don't know how he does either. I'm also very excited to see what happens with old Tillman Fertitta and his ownership of the Rockets, because he is in trouble financially.
How does a billionaire get to be in trouble?
Well, he bought the Rockets on loan basically. Like he took out a bunch of debt to buy them, and then I think he had some casinos that kind of went under, or like were failing even before the coronaness. Yeah, so I think he's just been in trouble. Also, like I don't know if you know this, he has ties to like the Galveston Mafia supposedly.
That makes sense with his what's not the Strand? What is it called? The Pier?
Yeah. Yeah, because there was.
Well,
this...
if he gets.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say if he gets in trouble and needs to sell the Rockets, I bet Mattress Mac would buy them.
Mattress Mac would be everybody's favorite owner.
Yeah.
He needs to hurry up and sell it to him then, because I don't think Mattress Mac has the most time on Earth. That is an old man. But yeah, there's this video about the UFC, and because Tillman Fertitta was one of the first investors in the UFC, and they kind of go into how like he kind of got business through the Galveston Mafia and stuff back in or his father did. Back in the 60s and 70s or something like that. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating video. Anyways, go ahead.
Are we doing awards?
No, go ahead. We'll finish.
I was gonna say I taught a kid at a different school with that last name, and she wasn't like his daughter, but I wondered if she was somehow connected because they were clearly well-to-do, and she, as an 8th grader, had a YouTube channel with like tens of thousands of followers, and I always thought that was so crazy.
So she's rich enough to buy some bots, is what you're saying.
It started out small. Like, I mean, she started out with a normal number, and then it just kept growing.
Gotcha. That Abby. Hi, Abby. I'm assuming that's Abigail Diltz. Abby Diltz. Hi, hello. Nice to see you.
Hi there.
All right, let's get started with the awards from Friday. A lot of perfect scores. A lot of perfect scores. In the honors, Elise, clap, 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 clap. Anthony in the honors, clap, clap, clap. Haymont in the honors. Haymont getting back on the board again. Huda, another one for Huda as well. Captain Fung getting in there on the medals right there. Yes, clapping. Thank you, Kathy. Naveen with a perfect score as well. Rachel Kieran also with a perfect score. Absolutely crushing it. Saloni with a perfect score. Is that it? Do we have one more? We got one more. Umer with a perfect score as well. You guys did great. Well done. Scholastics. There might even be more Scholastics with higher score with perfect scores, which is awesome. Abigail with the perfect score, just in time to get in here and see her get a nice shout out here. Afia with the perfect score. Afia, you're crushing it. Ashith with a perfect score. Yay, Ashith. Catherine Leon, Kath with the perfect score. Emery with the perfect score. Back on the board for Emery. Kevin Fang with the perfect score. Well done, Kevin. Mark Gabino, little Gabino with the perfect score. Well done. Welcome to the club. Megan Wang with a perfect score. Well done. Clapping and clapping in. In the varsity category, Leah with a perfect score. Leah, crushing it. And then tied for second, we got Conrad and Rachel Thomas. Congratulations. Well done. Once again, varsities, please take your quizzes.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to start making these quizzes harder, I guess. I can
Well,
go back and tweak my questions.
yeah, go back and update them. I mean, they've been hard enough as is. Maybe they just got lucky with the questions that were in there. Still clapping, Abby. Abby is still clapping. That is impressive. Thank you guys for clapping. Very much appreciated. Again, as some of y'all can attest to, probably the second. The questions are good as they are. Probably the second most important skill you can have to be a good dualistic athlete is your clapping ability. So make sure you are working on that, whether you're doing, stringent exercises at home or anything like that.
Your clapping exercises.
Yes.
Really build up your skin thickness in the palms so you can clap longer.
Get that real echo going. All right. So I think we've been actually having a pretty good rhythm in terms of you guys kind of chiming in with questions when you have them, but me and Miss Johnston kind of just trying to get through this and maybe posing some potential lines of thought. Let's see, what's today, the 20th?
Yes.
We are 2 weeks away from getting the outlines for the materials. So next Friday, we will get an outline for what exactly the materials are going to be. Did I change the levels already? Yes, the levels should be correct at this point. I'm going to go through again at some point and check again. But I think they're correct. Also, again, you said the organization, their instructions were very weird. So I need to make sure I did it right. Because they said everything that wasn't part of the quarantine doesn't count. So if you did the online learning, it doesn't count. But for some districts, right, I think they just canceled all semester 2 grades. So I don't know.
But you still have to do your T4 work.
Yes. Please do your T4 work. We will reiterate this every single time we have a live stream. Please do your T4 work, because if you does not meet standard, you do not receive credit for your second semester. All, period. And then you have to do summer stuff, which is not what we want to do, because we want to do a little bit of decathlon over the summer. And also, have a summer. Although some of you guys are already well on the way into your summer, based on some of the conversations I've had with the varsities. All right, Bakonan. We're getting into the tale of Bakonan. He's born in 1891, so he's an old man at this point. He's probably in his 60s. He is black, and he is born as an Episcopalian. I'll ask you guys a question here. Who's the other Episcopalian we have talked about so far in this book? He's Episcopalian, and he is British, living on the island of Tobago, which is part of a kind of dual island country today with Trinidad. The crazy lady with the Great Dane, yes, the lady with the Great Dane, who wanted him. He was building a doghouse for. So I don't know if that means anything. Miss Johnson, do you think there's anything there?
Maybe Vonnegut just had something against Episcopalians.
Yeah, I could see that.
Aren't Episcopalians?
They're chill.
They're like they call them Catholic light.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are kind of sort of like the Anglican Church in America.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I definitely looked them up, and yes, they only really focus on 2 sacraments. It was like marriage and communion or something. They're not deep on the religion. His actual name is Lionel Boyd Johnson. So I think I've accepted the fate that the oh wait. Do you see these initials?
LBJ?
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know if it
is.
I don't know if it means
Well,
anything.
at the time the book is published, he is the vice president.
He is the vice president, but he's already a well-known political figure, right? He was the He was the minority whip for a while, and then majority leader.
Yeah, and he was very, very powerful in the Senate and
Yes,
quite imposing and overbearing.
he's like one of the last. Well, he's one of the last like great, not great necessarily good, but very powerful majority leaders. Or at least he's well regarded. He's regarded as one of the most powerful majority leaders ever. Um, so he's the youngest of 6 children, born to a very wealthy family. Youngest of 6, wealthy family, and his wealth is derived from his grandfather discovering treasure off of the island of Tobago or somewhere. They don't necessarily say where. That he presumes to be the treasure of Blackbeard, also known as Edward Teach. Um, the treasure of Blackbeard, which is a little wild, but all right. It's almost like it's like myth creating, right? It's like creating kind of a myth around Bokonon in a sense, like touched by Blackbeard, right? So they invest that money, they invest that treasure into, let's see here, into asphalt, copra, which while I'm writing this, can you tell me what copra is? Cacao, livestock, and poultry. Which I feel like poultry would just be livestock, but that's fine.
Are you asking for Copra because you don't know?
I'm asking for copra for them. I know what copra is.
Okay.
Yeah, I want somebody to tell me. Yeah, it's like dried coconut. Yeah, that sounds right. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's how they get coconut oil.
Mm-hmm. I did
That's
not
the
know that
part
part
they
actually. There you go.
yeah.
So he's educated in Episcopal schools. He does well as a student. He's more concerned with ritual than education per se. Although that's not true. He does care about education. Um, he seems to have been a carouser, right? At least according to the 14th Calypso, which he says, "When I was young, I was so gay and mean, and I drank and chased the girls just like young Saint Augustine. Saint Augustine, he got to be a saint. So if I get to be one, also, please, Mama, don't you faint." Um, yeah. So this is the first Calypso where I feel like we kind of get. This isn't. This isn't like a metaphor. This isn't like a metaphor or a lesson. This is like lyrics to a song. Like he thinks he's a rock star or something. Maybe not necessarily the first one, but the most blatant of like, what is he saying? Nothing. I mean, maybe
Well,
like, hey, your sins can be forgiven or something.
could be. As you get older, if you live a certain way, your sins could become forgiven. It's interesting that he compares himself to Saint Augustine. Probably the most notable would be Saint Augustine of Hippo,
Yeah.
and he is the patron saint of brewers,
Okay.
printers, and theologians, and he is invoked for people who have issues with sore eyes.
That is okay. I knew
So,
I knew he was the patron saint of theologians because he's very important as being a big reason why Christianity became popular with like nobility.
mhm,
Because originally it was for the common folk, at least in the Roman Empire and post Rome, because of spiritual equality and all that. And then he was the one who kind of made it sound, you know, I guess educated, right? For
mhm.
the nobles to be like, oh yeah, I'll be Christian. That sounds cool. Thanks, Augustine.
Well, and then where we have Bokonon doing the same thing for Bokononism,
Yeah.
well, attempting to. But I thought it was interesting that he's prayed to for sore eyes, and this a lot of this book has been talking about how people don't really see the world around them and see their involvement in the grand scheme of things and all that.
Okay. Sure. I like that. Now, what about St. Augustine grass?
It's the best kind of grass there is.
I don't know about all that. He sails to London in 1911 in a sloop, which is a tiny ship named the Lady Slipper, which conjures to me things of like Cinderella, right? Like the shoe fits kind of thing. London. He goes there for the London School of Economics and Political Science, which I've only ever heard it called the London School of Economics. I've not heard it called the full name. I don't know if that's the full name. I don't even know if it's the same school. It could be a
It
different
might
school.
have been the full name in 1911.
Yeah, true. He serves in the First World War. He enlisted in the infantry, fought with distinction, and he was even mentioned 4 times in dispatches and commissioned in the field. He gets an officer commission for being successful in the war. That's kind of what they're trying to say. He gets gassed in the second battle of the Ypres, which I know is not how it's pronounced. It's Ypres.
I think it's Ypres.
Ypres.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's how I've been saying it.
Which I believe
Anyway.
is that in Belgium.
I want to say yes, but then, we'll probably be wrong.
Yeah,
It's a
probably.
municipality in Belgium, yes.
Okay. So after he gets gassed in the second battle of Ypres, which is like one of the probably 3 or 4 battles that are ever mentioned about World War One. Like it's Ypres, it's the Marne, it's the Somme, it's Passchendaele, Verdun, you know. And then he goes home, sets sail for Tobago. Somehow has the Lady Slipper like several years later still. And then when he's returning home, 80 miles from home, which is this is in the middle of the Caribbean. He is searched by a German submarine, the U-99. And then they start to use his boat for target practice. He's taken prisoner, and then while the vessel, the U-99, is still surfacing, it is surprised and captured by a British destroyer, the Raven. Which, I find I didn't realize that they were engaging in unrestricted submarine warfare in the Caribbean.
Well, remember they were maybe not unrestricted German submarine warfare quite there, but remember this might be an allusion to where they're trying to get Mexico involved.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Lost steering. The Raven did on their way back to England, and they have to end at the Cape Verde Islands, which for those of you in WAP might recognize. Cape Verde is kind of one of the big the laboratories for colonization and sugar plantations and stuff like that. Although we didn't talk about Cape Verde nearly as much as we did the Azores and Madeiras. But yeah. What's Praia? What is that? Alright, so Jonathan stays in the islands for 8 months, stays in Cape Verde and islands for 8 months. And then he's looking for some transportation to the Western Hemisphere. And then he gets a job as a crewman on a fishing vessel. I'm just going to say fishing ship. That is going to New Bedford, Massachusetts. Weird to go from Cape Verde to New Bedford, but I don't know. Praia is Cape Verde's capital. Jeez, Heyman. That's impressive. But he never makes it to there. He is blown ashore at Newport, Rhode Island. Oops, I cannot spell today. I've been struggling with my spelling today for some reason.
Playground for the very wealthy.
Yes. And so he thinks something's trying to get him somewhere for some reason. So he stays in Newport to see what's going to kind of happen there. And he starts working as a gardener and carpenter at the Rumford estate, which I would presume then that the blueprint lady, is a Rumford.
Could be.
He's working as a carpenter there, right?
Episcopalianism was kind of the religion de rigueur of the upper class at this time period.
That makes sense because it's chill. You don't really you're Christian, but you don't have to work too hard at it, And so they talk about all the people that are guests at the Rumford estate. J.P. Morgan, of course, the J.P. Morgan investment bank, which no longer exists, right? It got didn't it get swooped up in the '09?
Yeah, it's like part of Chase now, I think.
Yeah. General John J. Pershing, who was one of the head military guys of World War I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was the leader of the American Expeditionary Force.
Yeah, there you go. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, before he was president, at least we're assuming. Enrico,
I
go ahead.
was gonna say this is probably when he's Undersecretary of the Navy.
Oh, I did not know he was an undersecretary of the Navy. Who is Enrico Caruso? Do you know?
The name sounds familiar, but I can't. Oh, let me look it up for us.
Okay. Warren G.
He's an
Harding,
opera singer.
for some reason, listing out his full middle name, Gamaliel. Gamaliel.
I know. I thought that was weird.
Yeah. He's a president of ours, if you don't know who he is. And Harry,
Caruso is an opera singer. I don't know if you caught me saying that.
an opera singer. Okay, thank you. And then Harry Houdini, the magician, right? So all of these very famous people hanging out at the Rumford estate. And it was during this time that the First World War ends, with 10 million people dying, 20 million wounded, with Johnson among them. And so when the war ends, the young Raquel of the Rumford family, which I'm assuming means some sort of like trouble child, right? Getting into trouble. Also, his name is Remington, which is such a terrible name.
Analogous to Hellraiser.
Analogous to Hellraiser. There you go. Remington.
Often a rake was a prodigal, wasting his usually inherited fortune on gambling, wine, women, and song.
There you go. That's exactly what's happening here. He wants to sail his steam yacht. I have never heard of a steam yacht. His steam yacht, which is called the Scheherazade, which is Scheherazade is a character in like Arabic tales, like 1001 Nights. If I recall correctly, Scheherazade was she married. I need to check this, but she married a like sultan or a ruler of some type, and then he was well known for killing each of his husband or his wives every night, and getting a new wife every day. I need to make sure this is the right one, and then. No. Okay, I don't think that's. Yeah. So basically, yeah. So the king killed his wife each night or each day after he woke up, and so Scheherazade, to prevent that from happening, she kept him up by telling him stories, forever. Right? She would tell him these amazing stories.
So she's the narrator of the 1001
She might.
Arabian Nights
Yeah.
tales.
That is very possible. Yes, she is a major female character and storyteller in the frame narrative of the Middle Eastern collection of tales known as 1001 Nights.
She's also, just a fun fact for those of you who care, is mentioned by the genie in his song in Aladdin.
Really? She is?
Yeah.
I did not know that. So the Scheherazade is the ship that they take, which is then rammed in the fog in Bombay Harbor. And only our main man here, Lionel Boyd Johnson, survives. So shout out to Remington. I'm sure his parents are devastated. So he stays in India for 2 years. God, this guy has a life, man. He's got a lot going on. He stays in India for 2 years, where he follows Gandhi, the teachings of Gandhi, and becomes a passive resistance leader. He gets arrested for leading groups that lay on train tracks to stop trains from doing their thing, stopping commerce. Which, how dare you? When the jail term is over, he is then shipped back to Tobago at British expense. Man, this is a whole chapter. Where's the short chapters, man? And then he builds another ship in Tobago, the Lady's Slipper 2. And then he sails about in the Caribbean. He idles in the Caribbean. So like when it calls it an idler, he's literally just like sitting there, right? Just not going anywhere. He's not trying to go anywhere. He's seeking a storm that will just drive him to where it's gonna go, where he's supposed to go, right? And then in 1922, he seeks shelter on Haiti. Cinderella's devotee. I don't know why I said it like that. What do you mean, Cinderella's devotee? You will get several.
Because you said the lady slipper.
Right. I don't see. I feel like. Oh, I see. He's gonna try on a bunch of slippers to see which one fits perfectly, or he has been right in India, in New Bedford, or sorry, in Newport, in World War One, right, and here in Haiti, right. He lands in Haiti to seek shelter from a hurricane in Port-au-Prince, which is occupied by the Marines at this point. I did not realize we had occupied Haiti in the 1920s. Although I guess it's a Caribbean nation, so it's a pretty good chance. Somewhere in the 1900s, the U.S. occupied it.
I was gonna say I think it started sometime during World War II, or sorry, World War One.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I can't remember why.
Um, maybe to protect it from Germans.
Maybe, or maybe it was like our last vestiges of imperialism.
Yeah. Okay. So in Haiti, he encounters an idealistic Marine deserter named Earl McCabe. He's a corporal, and he is so idealistic that he stole his company's recreation fund. That's some ideals right there. He stole the company, being the other soldiers he was with, right? And he offered Johnson $500 to get to Miami on his little ship, the Lady Slipper. They set sail from Miami, but a gale puts them into the rocks of San Lorenzo. It sends them into San Lorenzo. Right, and then when they're at San Lorenzo, they get there naked. They have no clothes left after the storm. And then he calls himself a fish pitched up by the angry sea. I gasp on land, and I became me. So again, he has hit the right slipper, right? He was enchanted by this mystery of kind of being at like fully cleansed, right? He literally has nothing, and he's coming ashore on this island that he knows nothing about, right? He resolves to let his adventure kind of go and see what happens. Turns out what happens is he founds his own religion. Be like a baby, the Bible says, so I stay like a baby to this very day. And then he comes across the name Bakonan because it is the native pronunciation for Johnston, or Johnson, apparently. So, hey, Miss Johnson, you could be Bakonan.
There'd probably be one random extra letter in there.
Yeah. So then he starts talking about the language. He talks about the language being as incomprehensible as Basque, which, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Ms. Johnston. Basque is one of the few, like, pre-Latin dialects in Europe. I think it has some roots in Latin languages, in Spanish. Basque is spoke in the Basque country of Spain. But it has a lot of its roots that are outside of the Latin Romance languages, which makes it very unique.
Well, and it's very few people speak it anymore after the carpet bombing of Guernica.
Oh, yeah?
Where most of the Basques were eliminated.
Is that how you pronounce that? Guernica?
You say Guernica or Guernica? I don't know. I've heard it both ways.
Okay. Yeah.
Really sad tale.
Yeah, and I believe that was the reason I know about Guernica is because I believe that's like what Picasso's most famous painting.
Yeah.
Is Guernica. Yeah. That's sad. And now they're trying to create their own country today, and Not necessarily. Oh,
They've had a rough road,
Yeah,
the basketball.
they really have. So it's very incomprehensible. But Jonah says he can understand it pretty well. He says he might be telepathic. And then Philip Castle uses an example in his book of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, with shining in the sky so bright like a tea tray in the night, which I've never heard before. I'm not going to go through this language. It looks like Dutch almost. Like, it looks, just the look of it is, I don't know.
Well, we do kind of have this recurring Dutch undertone with the Honecker and then Remington Runford. If you look at how his name is spelled, it probably is Dutch. So it wouldn't, I don't know, maybe Vonnegut had a thing for the Dutch here. I don't know.
Maybe. Or maybe he finds their language also incomprehensible. So he's like, hey, I'll make it the root of this other language.
Could be.
The boat comes ashore. They find the boat, the pieces of the boat, whatever's left of it. They paint it gold, and they make it to the bed of the island's chief executive. And then the legend is that the golden boat will sail again, and when the end of the world is near, which I did not pick up the first time I read this. But,
yeah, some strong foreshadowing there.
Yeah. Sail when end is near. You can make the argument, as a matter of fact, that the boat sailing is what ends the Earth.
Aw, spoiler, man.
Oh, come on. That's not that much. That's. I guess so. Sorry.
Dutch is like German, but with extra vowels. Yeah, pretty much.
Chapter 50, a nice midget. Oh.
Again, our standard disclaimer, we are not using the word midget because we don't know how to be politically correct in 2020. That is the term in the book.
Correct. Which, at that time, political correctness was...
not a thing.
Not a thing, or very much a fringe thing. Alright. So, Hazel shows up. H. Lowe Crosby's wife, Hazel. Hazel found some Hoosiers. And she is very excited to tell the other Hoosiers she met.
I do like Jonah's reaction, though, because the way he says, I'll be damned, and we know who those two Hoosiers are.
Yeah, he should
kind of that recurring demonic, devilish hell thing going on.
He has to be just, like, appeasing her. I'll be damned. Like, yeah, I know. Or, like, whatever. They're not Hoosiers, but they live there now. They live in Indianapolis. He's like, very interesting. Again, I think he's just like, oh, yeah, okay. I'm just go along with this lady. You want to meet them? You think I should? And then I love when he asks this question, like, do you think I should meet them? She's just like, yeah, they're Hoosiers, right? What are their names? Their names are Connors and Honecker. They're brothers and sisters, and it's, so you know what's going on here, right? And then, does he call you mom? He asks, right? Because again, Hazel asked Jonah to call her mom, and she says, I don't think I would. I didn't want to ask him because it might be rude to ask a midget to call him mom. Which, as we're gonna find out, you can make the argument that his mom is already accounted for. Here in a second. Root ask a midget to that. Let's say. Okay, not too lot going on in this chapter. Just kind of introducing the fact that hey, the Honeckers are in the plane. They are in the story once again. All right, chapter 51.
It is weird that we pick them up in Puerto Rico, though.
Yes, I agree. That is interesting. Maybe so. If he's in New York, maybe it's a connecting flight. But that's a weird connecting flight.
Yeah,
it is interesting. All right. Chapter 51. Okay, Mom, which just sounds like the thing I would say to okay, Mom. All right, Mom. So Angela is the horse-faced platinum blonde. that we talked about in a previous chapter. That is Angela. Okay. Yes. Okay. Boomer. Exactly. My mom is not technically a boomer. She's a little. She's younger than that. She's what's the next generation after them? Gen X.
Sure. I don't know. Yes,
Yeah, I think so.
my parents are both very firmly in the boomer
Oh, really?
category. Yeah.
You know what? That explains a lot about Miss Johnston, I think, as well.
Well, I'm also the youngest of four, and my oldest brother is 14 years older than me. So,
Wow.
like, I was the surprise baby later in life.
Right. I was the surprise baby early in life.
Ah,
Yes, my mom was 21 when she had me. So
there
she's
you go.
yeah she's a young madre. It's I forget if it was somebody on the team last year, but because my mom shows up for state every year, and like every year it's like my parents are the same age as a lot of the students' parents, and they all have a nice little freak out about that. Um, yeah. They talk about Newt being a tiny man. He's not grotesque. He is nicely scaled as Gulliver. Okay. Scaled as Gulliver. So this is what Gulliver's Travels. Is that what this is called?
Yeah, Gulliver's Travels, Jonathan Swift.
Right. Among the Brobdingnagians.
Which, if I remember, those were like the giant horse people.
Okay. I have never read any Jonathan Swift. He is
Well,
not.
he goes through like four different worlds, and then one he's a giant, and one he's little. But I want to say these are the giant horse people, which would be interesting if that's actually true because of the way Angela is described as a giant horse face person.
That's true. That's true. Like he's used to it. He held a glass of champagne, which he says looked like a fishbowl in his hands, which is yeah okay. The glass was to him what a fishbowl would have been to a normal man, but he drinks it with an elegant ease, as though he and the glass could not have been better matched. And then this next paragraph, we have this huge twist of like right turn of how we're talking about these two. The little SOB had a crystal of Ice 9 and a thermos bottle in his luggage, and so did his miserable sister, while under us was God's own amount of water, the Caribbean Sea. All right. So he is clearly very upset that Ice 9 is here, and he is mad. He is very mad at them for having it. They both have Ice 9 on them. And then when Hazel got all the pleasure she could from Hoosiers living being there, and she leaves. And then both him and then she goes ahead and tells Newt, "Call me mom." Jonah says, "Okay, mom." Newt says, "Okay, mom." His voice is high but it's still masculine. Angela treats Newt like an infant. Which at this point he's what? At least he's 18, 19?
At least.
Yeah, maybe 20. Which we'll talk about that in a second. He forgave her with an amiable grace that I would have thought impossible for one so small. So Newt very much seems like he's able to kind of deal with the way the world treats him. He's very much able to deal with it. With a grace, right? He talks about with the champagne, right? He's handling it like it's just normal, right? Like it was meant for him, and he's dealing with Angela with this grace and the way he talks to her, right? Even though Angela talks to him like he's a little child, right?
To go back to the Gulliver thing, because I looked it up, the Brobdingnagians or whatever they're are not the horse people, but they are 60-foot giants, the queen of whom treats little Gulliver like a pet.
Okay, which is kind of what Angela treats Newt like.
Right, as if he's not capable of being a human on his own.
Right. And so Angela and Newt remember him from the letters. And then Angela apologizes for not writing anything because she couldn't think of anything to say that would interest anybody reading a book. Um, and then she says that day was just like a regular day. Jonah comes back and says, "Well, hey, Newt wrote me a good letter." And then Angela is like, Newt couldn't remember anything. Not saying he's dumb, saying he was too young, right? You were just a baby, which he still is. Um,
But he was 6. It's not like he was an infant.
right. I mean, I can vaguely remember stuff from when I was 6. I wish I'd seen the letter, is what Angela says. Which and they literally directly say, right, implying that Newt is still too immature to deal directly with the outside world. And then Jonah kind of keeps railing into Angela. She's a god awfully insensitive woman, which, I mean, accurate, I think.
It's 100% accurate.
Yeah. God awful insensitive woman, with no feeling for what smallness meant to Newt. And then, like, the use of the name Honey. Honey, you should have shown me the letter to him. It's just so weird. I've never heard a brother and sister talk like that, right? Unless, back to Ash's theory of the Mike Pence universe, right? Of how they talk to each other in Indiana, right? But it sounds more like mother to son.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honey, you should have shown me that letter. And then Newt, I didn't think, right? And as somebody who's dealt with people in my family who I just kind of say things to just appease them, right? Make them go away. That sounds like what Newt's saying, right? And then Angela goes on, like, Dr. Breed said I shouldn't cooperate with you. He said you weren't interested in giving a fair picture of father. She doesn't like that, right? Jonah goes on and says, well, I'm not writing the book anyways. And then, because he doesn't have an idea of what it should mean. And then if Angela says, if you ever do write the book, better make father a saint, because that's what he was, which goes back to the deification of Honaker, with Angela being probably the number one follower, right? Let's see here. What else do we want to talk about? And then they kind of go on to, so, hey, you're going to go meet up with Frank. It turns out Frank's getting married, which is why they are making their way to St. Lorenzo. And if you thought about it for like 2 seconds, you knew immediately where this was going, right? And so Angela, so of course Jonah asks who he's getting married to, which, is actually kind of interesting that he asked that, because, like, who, he wouldn't know. There would be no way for him to know who it is. But whatever. I think it's just a narrative.
Also, who's the lucky girl when we're talking about Frank?
Yeah, right. I could see that being very mirthy, very sarcastic. Oh, who's the lucky girl, right? And then Angela pulls out this plastic accordion billfold, right? This accordion billfold, and a billfold is like it's like a wallet almost, right?
Yeah, it's usually associated with men.
Yes. And in each of the accordion's pleats was a photograph. Now, when I thought of this, what this kind of read to me was like a personal Bible. Right? This is like Angela's Bible. This is what she worships, right? And Dr. Honeker's in there, right? But then the family's in there, and her children are there, right? So it's like, that's what it read to me as, like, because as you're going to see later, she makes everybody look at every picture, right? So she's like trying to convert them in a way. That's what I read it as. So in each of the accordion's pleats was a photograph. She flips through the photographs to talk about all the different photographs in there. Newt at Cape Cod, little Newt at Cape Cod. I don't know if that implies that it's Newt younger or just Newt. Dr. Felix getting his Nobel Prize. Angela's twin girls, homely twin girls, mind you.
Hurtful.
Yeah, exactly. And Frank's model airplane. So kind of like, again, a lot of the things that most represent each of these people, right? Newt with Cape Cod, not necessarily, right? But Angela's twin girls, right? She very much cares about family. That's clear. Felix with his Nobel, Frank with his modeling, right?
But that's telling that Newt doesn't have a specific thing because she doesn't associate him with, I don't know, having interests or hobbies or maybe even the intellect to develop them.
Yeah, sure. Just sees him in like a what's I'm looking for, like a nostalgic state of just like just you just she just imagines a person, right, or a
Like
yeah, or an
frozen in
object.
childhood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
But also telling is who did we not see a picture of?
Oh, that's a good question. Does anybody have an idea? I think I know. And while people might be answering that, of course, the person that he's getting married to is Mona Amons Bonzano, the love of Jonah's life that he's never met before. Um, Also, why does she have a picture of Mona? That's a weird one. Yes, I think her husband is I think what Miss
Yeah.
Johnson's going for.
That was where I was going, but then when you said that, I was like, oh wait, I guess I could also accept the mom as an answer, but I was going for the husband.
Yeah. Well, the mom was dead so long ago. I think that's okay, right?
Probably. She's just forgotten now under her giant shaft.
Yeah. And so she goes. They go on. Right. Jenna says she's reluctant to close the billfold until somebody's looked at every photograph. She goes on to say these are all the people I love. Which again, as you point out, her husband's not in there, which we'll see why later. Um, which she had trapped in this plexiglass, right? And what she had trapped like fossil beetles and amber, right? Fascinating language, right? Fossil beetles and amber are the
Bugs
people
again.
are the people of the Karas. Say again.
I said we got those bugs again.
Yeah, that's true. The image of a large part of the Karas. There wasn't a Grand Falluner in the collection. A Grand Falluner is what again? Does anybody remember? Do you remember, Miss Johnson?
Isn't that the false Karas?
Is that the false Karas?
Like the Hoosiers?
Yeah, that's right. Um, there are many photographs of Dr. Honecker, of course, which he goes on to say father of Bomb, father of three children, father of Ice Nine, uh, are three kind of things he's the father of. And then he himself, right? Felix Honecker is pretty small, right? Talks about being a little person, which to me kind of reads as the equivalent to what they've been saying is midget, right? But he is the son of both a midget and a giantess, which to me
The
scream.
father.
Say again.
I said the father of a midget and a giantess.
Oh, I didn't read that. Okay,
Where
I read that wrong.
they say sire as if these are horses being bred.
Yeah, that too. I was thinking more like it felt like a mythological tale, right? A tall tale, right? Of like, fathering these totally different group or being the son of, but I was clearly not thinking right, so don't worry about that. My favorite picture of the old man is him all bundled up for winter in an overcoat, scarf, galoshes, and a wool neck cap with a big pom pom on the crown. And this was taken in Hyannis. Let's list all that. It sounds like a Cinderella story a little bit. That's kind of like yeah, it's like creating this like myth, this tall tale, right? It's not it's true, right? But so
Well, also by saying purported, it goes back to that idea that he may not be the father of these children.
right, that's also true. Which also makes sense. If he's a little person, right, it makes sense for him to father Newt, but you know, his genes creating somebody as tall as Angela is a little interesting.
But
But
we've never been told how tall the mom was.
true, we also haven't been told how tall Dr. Breed is, which would be the assumptive, father. An overcoat, scarf, galoshes. What are galoshes? Those are like shoes.
Yeah, aren't those like those the ones that you wear over your shoes, the winter boots?
Sure. I don't know.
The mom was 7'8".
I've never lived in a place where winter exists, so I don't know.
They're a waterproof overshoe, typically made of rubber.
Okay, there you go. So this was taken in Hyannis, just 3 hours before the old man died, which is interesting because he was in Cape Cod. I don't know where Hyannis is. I'm assuming he's nearby.
Hyannisport isn't that where the Kennedys have their stuff?
You got me on that
It,
one.
I'm gonna say Hyannis is like normally Hyannisport in Massachusetts, but
Okay. D-
which
go
I
ahead.
don't know how far that would be from Cape Cod.
Yeah, I don't either. Galoshes rain boots. Thank you, Syria. Uh, so he dies in the cottage. He asks, "Hey, where did he die in the hospital?" No, he dies in the cottage in a big white wicker chair. A big white wicker chair, facing the sea. Dude and Frank had gone walking down the beach in the snow. And then Newt points out, very weirdly, it's a very warm snow. It's almost like walking through orange blossoms. It's very strange. Nobody was walking. Nobody was in any of the other cottages. Um, I like this imagery for like the kind of it kind of feels to me like a nuclear winter kind of thing, right? Like the idea of the nuclear bombs will create this nuclear winter where it's just I don't know if it's snow per se or it's like ash, right? Just kind of creating a snow like situation, even though it's not necessarily cold, right? And everybody else is dead, right? And that's kind of what that conjured to me.
Also, fun fact, Hyannisport and Cape Cod are 7 miles apart.
Oh, okay, that makes sense then. There's nobody around. There's nobody within miles. They found a big black dog, a big Labrador Retriever, out on the beach, which is weird because nobody's around.
Right, but in like not mythology per se, but like I don't know, sometimes the what is the word I'm trying to look for? It like a big black dog would be a symbol or a representation of death or the Grim Reaper.
Yeah, almost like a Cerberus kind of thing, maybe.
Yeah, with fewer heads.
Yeah. Um. So Angela's in town for a Christmas tree. Jonah asks, "Did Felix like Christmas?" And they're like, "I don't know. He's just not very demonstrative, right?" Interesting little interaction here. Angela's like, he wasn't very demonstrative. He doesn't demonstrate his emotions. Some people don't are demonstrative, and that's fine. And Newt's like, some people are demonstrative, and whatever. A black dog is a common kind of apparition. Okay, that's true. Shout out to Sirius Black.
I was gonna say the exact same thing.
Yeah. Uh, and then Angela says we got back home. We found him in the chair, and he just looked like he was asleep. And then, of course, Jonah, as Jonah knows, she leaves out the interesting part of the story. That night, right on Christmas Eve, on the day of Felix's death, the Honecker siblings split the Ice Nine up.
Which is kind of interesting. At this point, how do they know what it is, that it has value, that they should divide it for any future purpose?
Now, if I recall, it's been a while since I've read the end of the book, but if I recall, I think he.
Don't spoil it. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. So,
Things to think about.
yeah, right. Um, so yeah, all right, and there is 48 through 52. That'll wrap that up for today. Anybody got any questions or anything? We're really moving into we're kind of in the mid chunk. We're moving through into the kind of main setting of the end here. I think we're getting quite close to actually landing in San Lorenzo. We still got a couple chapters in. Actually, we still have quite a few chapters in the book or in the airplane. Yeah, yeah. We all tomorrow is still in the airplane, and then the next day we will finally get to see San Lorenzo, which is like the most anticlimactic climax reveal of like a place. It's so good.
I mean, we are firmly entrenched in the rising action of this story.
Yes, thank you for bringing actual literary terms to what I'm trying to say.
We've had an extensive exposition.
Yeah,
Now we shall have our rising action.
there we go. All right. All right. Seems like nobody's got any questions. WAP people, I'll see y'all at 2:30. The rest of you guys, we will talk to y'all tomorrow, same time, same place. Miss Johnson, you got anything you want to add?
I think I'm good.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all guys tomorrow. Take care.
Bye, guys.